Hello, it's Eric Elwell, and I'm going to give you a rundown of the brushes in the Foliage pack. So this is the second brush pack that I'm putting out. The first was the 32 Painterly brushes. Now this is specific to foliage brushes, and all of these brushes were developed for use in my work, and I think you may find them interesting. So this first set here, these two, obviously you've got the Treeline with the trunks, and then the kind of the canopy here. And this has an intended use, so you can see, working left to right in a clockwise motion, you get this kind of domed top there, smooth top, and it actually gets a little broken at the bottom, and that's intentional to have a smooth silhouette, a smooth edge on the top, and a broken edge on the bottom. And of course you can take these kind of more diagonally. You can take lighter strokes with them to kind of leave that a little more open. And if you go the opposite direction, if you're going counterclockwise, then that broken edge is going to be on the outside rather than on the bottom and on the inside. So if you wanted to have that be the the edge of your shape, that to be your shape language, then that is how you would go about that. So again, that's counterclockwise to get kind of the broken edge on the exterior, or clockwise if you want that domed kind of edge on top. Okay, so that's one of the graphic brushes here. Another one that's a little more graphic in style, though it is pretty versatile, is this fir or pine tree brush here. And this brush was intended for a project where I needed consistency in the visual motif, but I wanted to have control over how the brush was applied on the landscape. So if I had a hill here and I wanted things to kind of curve up, out and up, like a tree would kind of grow into its environment, I wanted to be able to do that. So that was the theory that drove these brushes to act the way that they are. And I wanted this instead of a stamp brush, because I didn't want to have a repeated pine texture all over the whole composition. Now here's another one. This is based on it's the same brush head as the Treeline there, but it's denser and then given a texture, and that gives us a kind of a tall grass, twig sticking out of the snow kind of texture here. All right. You might be able to hear my kids playing up upstairs above me. They're having a good old time. All right. Now there's a rougher brush. This is going to be much more painterly. This is if you want to block in a tree line, or low-lying undergrowth, or you want to just get these trees in. You take this, these vertical strokes, up or down, really doesn't matter with this one. And with this, you can really quickly, rough in foliage in a scene like that. And there's another version of it here that is intended. Yeah, I think it's this one. This one is intended just to block in your trees. It's not as versatile on the horizontal strokes. You don't. I wouldn't typically use it for the undergrowth, but it is nice to get your trees blocked in. Now there's a second version of it that will follow the direction. If you wanted to show a tree like freshly downed or something, let's try that one again. There we go, more like that. A tree freshly downed, that would be the application for that brush. Now, let's see here. Did I skip? Oh yeah, I skipped over this Rabble Brush. This is a textural brush. This will hold up at a pretty high resolution. That was what I intended it for, and it's just kind of a texture, rough in, and it's for high grass or shrubs or something like that. Of course, has color dynamics on it. But that is, I think, a pretty self-explanatory brush there. Let's see, so we're moving on to, this one is a more interesting, maybe lends itself to stranger forms. It was kind of intended as like a rough palm, and you can see how it has some versatility to it. It's kind of ends up like a rough feather or something there. And then, of course, I had to make a cleaner version for palm trees that are smooth, and then end up getting rough at the top. So with more texture, you get that rough portion there. But if you're just going lightly, you get a pretty smooth edge. All right, so of course a palm is not complete without the palm branches, and this one, a friend of mine, Manuel Gomez, he's looking at the brushes that I was putting together, and he said, "Oh, you got to do you turn that one into a palm branch," and I had to do it. I had to make it happen just to impress Manny. So if you appreciate this brush, you got to go thank Manny. You got to show your appreciation to him by going to ArtStation and find Manuel Gomez and give him a follow and a like and all that stuff. So I am happy with how this brush came out. It's nice for even like low-lying ferns and stuff. Has a direction dynamic to it. So whatever direction you start in, that's going to be the orientation of the branch. Okay, now moving on. Another much more graphic brush here. This is like a wheat stalk, and you can see it is a really silhouetted, solid shape, and there's a separate version of it. Well, actually, before I go to that separate version, I'll just show you this one. It does follow your brush wherever you take it. So this really could be used in other applications besides painting. If you wanted to use it in a more decorative way, you could certainly do that. Now, this separate version of it was just horizontal, very simple, just minor change in the dynamics of the brush, and that was for a project that I had. I wanted to show these stalks of grain cut down, piled up, that sort of thing. So I wanted to be able to just block them in there really quickly without necessarily taking all these specific horizontal strokes. And then another brush here that is more graphic and more of a stamp. This brush here does have some dynamics to it, and that is it'll shift color and shift its orientation as you apply pressure. And the idea with that was to have kind of a twist on as the light hits this this mass of foliage here, that it turns, as it turns its form away from the light, it shifts in color. Now, that's not always the way that we like to think as we are painting. We don't always shift the our specific approach to painting to accommodate a brush. So that's not typically how I end up using this. It was an interesting test in seeing if I could improve my workflow, increase the speed with that method. Just for me, I might have been too entrenched in old ways of thinking to really change it. But I still think it has a pretty interesting effect, even if it's not exactly the way that I originally intended it to be used. Now, let's see, moving on. Leaf Rube, this is essentially a stamp for, getting the foliage mass on a tree. There's two versions of it, one that's a little wider and then one that's flatter. And that could be either the orientation of the tree, or it could be the the perspective that you're viewing this from. Now, we'll go ahead and grab our tree trunk here, and we'll kind of block these in so that it starts to make more sense. Let's see here. Gotta give these trees kind of a gnarly trunk. All right. Anyway, so you can see how you could do that either way. You could block in your trunk first and then throw in your leaf stamps. Now, if there are portions that are repeating, you're seeing these not quite working for you, then this last final brush is like a touch-up brush for that. It's going to hide a lot of the repetition of the stamps, gives you some control over, like I just want a little bit more here, maybe a little bit, coming off this way, so it lets you really refine the foliage edge there. And there's a couple ways of using it too. You can have it shoot up for like new growth. It's nice for kind of undergrowth or leaves, ground cover kind of thing. And it's nice for like an ivy or something that's climbing the tree, so it's actually another pretty versatile brush that I think really completes the set. So, yeah, go ahead and check out these brushes. They're available on ArtStation, on my ArtStation store. Also, the 32 Painterly brushes, that's the first set that I put out. You should check those out. Those brushes, I would say, definitely hold up over time. Those are general use brushes that I've built over 12 years or so of working in this industry, and I love them. I think they're great. But these brushes, the foliage brushes, have a specific task, a particular use for them. And if these interest you, if you think these would be helpful to incorporate into your own workflow, then check them out. All right. Thanks for your time, and have a blast with these brushes.